All right, welcome to the FeedBak podcast, everybody. My name is Back. Thank you for tuning in. And this is a special episode. I know I say that every time, but this is very special. I'm very excited about this. But before we get started, do me a favor: go to iTunes, go to wherever it's in the podcast, leave a review, share it. And like I said, I've been focusing more on comedy these days because it's blowing up here in Austin, Texas. So it's only right that I talk to the funny people where here and a lot of people who are moving here. So uh, in that sense, I'd like to introduce my guests. We got Colton Dowling in the building, virtually in the building, and Marty Clarke from the Creek and Cave, moving to Austin. How you guys doing?
Great, great. How you doing today?
Good, good. I know you guys are busy with everything that's happening with the Creek and the Cave. Coming to Austin. If you guys don't know, Creek and the Cave is a legendary club up in New York. And then, like I said, with the comedy scene blowing up here in Austin, this was a terrific move. But let's dive a little bit into that. Like uh, how did that happen? Who wants to tell the story? I know the story, but I think it's a great fucking story. It's a great fucking story.
It is it's a good story. When things started to come back after the lockdown for a while, I started my open mic. So I actually kind of randomly ran into Gabe Cavazos, who started Rough Cut Comedy. He ran some shows before COVID hit.
Mhm.
And then I was kind of part of Rough Cut. I had like 3 shows that I had under the Rough Cut umbrella. And then I happened to run into him. I was actually walking to the gas station to get a Gatorade because I was very hungover. Because that's what you do during a lockdown. You get drunk every day. And yeah, so I was walking to the gas station. I ran into him. It was right during the first day of the George Floyd protests. So that's why I ran into him. And I went out to the protest with him. And then there was a bunch of comedians. There was like a group of maybe 10 or 15 comedians that would go out every day. We were handing out waters. We were handing out masks. And so I just got back into the comedy scene. I didn't know if I was going to do comedy again, if comedy was going to come back, what it would look like.
Mhm.
So then I started hanging out with the comics again. And then Craig Fergola just talked me into going to an open mic. So there was only 2 open mics at the time, Micheladas and Opa. And so I went to one of the open mics, and then I went to the other one, and I realized I was like, you know what? I should start open mic. Comedy is what I love. I was unemployed. I had time. So I started my open mic at the Lucky Duck, which was also a fun story. What I did was I went through all the venues in town that do music and outdoor music.
Mhm.
And then I was going to check out all these venues. I narrowed a list of 250 down to 40 that I wanted to see. And I was just walking down 6th Street to go check out one of the venues. And then the owners of the Lucky Duck were standing right outside. And I was like, hey, are you guys open? They're like, yeah, we're about to open. And so I was like, you want to run a comedy night? They were like, actually, yes, we were just talking about that. So it's
Just like that.
There's gonna be a lot of themes to my stories here. It's just a lot of luck. So then I started that. So I started my open mic there, and it just blew up right away. I mean, I think week 3 we had over 60 comics. It was crazy because nobody done comedy in 6 months.
Right.
So I started my open mic, and then when that started blowing up, I was like, we need some showcases because there was no showcases in town.
Mhm.
And so then I went and I started my WTF showcase, and I started my Wisecrack showcase, and I started my Baker Street showcases, and then they started to kind of just to pile up. And then before I knew it, I had like 28 shows in the month of January. And I think there's only one day in March where we don't have a show. And so I started all those shows. And then the way the club came about was one day I was out day drinking with my buddy Avi before a show. And we happened to be at this bar, and these drunk guys just came up to us and started talking to us. And they were nice enough. So we invited them to the show that night. We gave them free tickets. They came out to the show. It was like a sold out show at the Lucky Duck. It had Hunter Duncan headlining. Great show. And so then after that, we went out drinking with them, and they said, you know, we want to invest in Rough Cut Comedy. And I was like, we don't really need money. We're kind of breaking even right now. We're fine.
Mhm.
And then they were like, well, just you should open up a comedy club since Cap City had shut down. There were no clubs in town. We were like, well, we don't want to run a comedy club. I mean, I don't even like producing. I just do it to give stage time and to build a scene.
Mhm.
And so they're like, all right, well, why don't you think on it? Like sleep on it. I go home and sleep on it. So that night I took some mushrooms. And
That helps. Always helps.
Always. Seriously, mushrooms changed my life because I took those mushrooms and I was watching this podcast it's one of my favorite ones. It's called Legion of Skanks. And it was at the Creek.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Great. And it was
That's
at
what
the
they used
Creek
to
in
be,
the Cave.
right?
What's that?
That's what it used to be, the Creek in the Cave in New York.
Yep.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So they were actually there because they were like Creek and Cave was about to shut down 3 days later. And then, so they happened to do there was the last podcast at the Creek in the Cave. And so Rebecca Trent was on that podcast. She hopped on the mic and talked about how sad she was. I knew it had shut down. I was sad. I've known about the Creek in the Cave for years. I'm a comedy nerd as well, and I listen to a ton of podcasts. And I loved just how she ran it, how it was scene oriented. I just loved everything about it and her. And so then while tripping on mushrooms, I hit her up at like 5:30 in the morning saying, hey, I'm sorry to hear about the Creek and the Cave shutting down. Would you ever consider moving it down to Austin?
How do you hit her up?
She hit me back right away. She was like, yeah, let's talk tomorrow. I called her the next morning, and then less than 3 months later, here we are.
Yeah, we flew her down like in 4 days. We're like, and I was like, Rebecca fucking Trent is coming to Austin?
No shit. Like, was it a tweet? Like, how do you say I just reached out there? Like, how do you reach out to like a legendary
Rebecca,
club owner?
Sure. Well, she was just on Facebook. Like, we weren't friends on Facebook. I never met her. I haven't been in New York since I was 8 years old. I mean, I knew what the Creek and the Cave was, but I just reached out on Facebook Messenger, and she just saw it and hit me back right away. She even said, she's like, I just happened to be awake at 5:30 in the morning that day too.
Dude, the stars align, man. Something to it. There's
Don't
something
wait for business hours. They're probably busy. That's text them at crazy times and just do shrooms. That is the message.
Yep. Yeah, but I mean, it all came, like I said, it's a lot of stars aligning and luck. That's why it's been in our press releases, that my quote of, the stars align for us to make something really cool for the scene. And so like her and my ideals just align perfectly. Like, and same with Colton's, because we're all about the scene. We're all about, the locals, developing talent, being welcoming and supportive of everybody. Like I hate the clickiness and competitiveness of comedy, and it's all over. And I've been doing this for 8 years. I did it in Wisconsin for 6 years before this. And I just hated that. And so what I've been trying to do, same thing with like how I run my open mic, how I run all my shows, is I try to give as many people opportunities as possible, be as supportive and welcoming as possible. I mean, there's so many new comics that are coming into town. Like, for example, that night that when I had like 63, I think it was, maybe only 5 did comedy in Austin before that. So many people had moved here following Rogan that, I didn't like the unwelcomeness that sometimes comes with comedy. So like when new people would come, I'd sit them right down next to me and I'd be like, hey, I'm going to introduce you to every single person who comes and signs up at this open mic. And it's developed a lot of goodwill in the scene. I mean, I even help people develop shows. Like, even if they don't run them under Rough Cut, I tell them how to approach venues, how to price them, how to tell them about the show. And so I've helped a lot of the people that are running shows get their shows, because again, it's not about being competitive. I think we're all in this. It's the island of misfit toys.
Well, how long if somebody runs an amazing show, you now get to do that show, and if you teach them how to like price it out and just like how to pay people, it's not like another glorified open mic. Like, everybody gets paid. Which is just like, we all want that. Like, we all want more opportunities. So.
Well, and I mean, as Colton and I both know, there's so many badly run shows across the U.S. that are just like, it's just like little things, like turn the TVs off, push everybody close to the stage. After every single show that I have, I usually go introduce myself to every table, and I'm like, thank you for coming, follow Rough Cut Comedy. Like, there's just little things that like some producers don't know. Like, don't book 20 comedians on your show. Just book like a host, 3 guest sets, a feature, and a headliner. I mean, it's just little. I just learned from producing. I produced shows in Madison, Wisconsin for years. And so I kind of figured out like what I thought through trials and tribulations would be the right way to run shows. And it just blew up. That's why all my shows from Rough Cut, almost none of them have failed, because it took me 6 to 8 years to figure out how to run a show the right way. And now that I do, all the shows, they just blow up immediately. It's been great.
How'd y'all two meet in the first place?
Shrooms.
Really? Always shrooms. Shrooms is the answer.
I was touring in Madison when he was still up there, and he ran a show, and I liked the show, and I was like, that's great. And then he moved down here. I used to run a podcast with Marty Clarke. That's him.
That's him. That's him. He's
but
right next
I'm gonna say one of the same words, and then I'm gonna say a different word, Martin Hen, which is a different person entirely. And so when he moved down here, we also made a festival. We made Batshit Crazy Fest. And that's like when we started hanging out all the time, just like texting all the time. It's like we made a festival in 1 week. It didn't ever happen because COVID.
Yeah.
But we put together like 400 comedians in 1 week, and like got all these shows and sponsorships and whatnot. Like, to do that, you just have to like text nonstop.
Right.
And after that, we've kind of just been like friends.
Yeah. Well, we knew that we could work together well, because it was me, Colton, and Gabe Cavazos that put together that whole festival, because we kind of put our heads together And that's why we called it Batshit Crazy Festival, because you have to be batshit crazy to put together a comedy festival in 7 days.
7
And we
days.
We pulled it off, and then goddamn COVID, Gabe got exposed to COVID, so we had to shut the whole thing down. But whatever. I mean, it was right after we did it because South by got canceled, and so a bunch of the comedians were still coming into town. So we're like, hey, you know what? South by did get canceled, but we can run like a much smaller scale comedy festival. And we did. We pulled it off, and then it was like 2 days before that we had to shut it down. But all it taught us was that we worked really well together. I mean, even for how this club came about, it's like Colton's been a part of Rough Cut. He's run shows under it. But then I was trying to put together a business plan with Gabe to go present to people to try to line up some money. And we needed some help with, like, you know, the financials, and he's got a little background in that.
A little background.
A little background.
A little background.
But yeah, so we brought him on, and then and then it's we kind of just clicked ever since. We have the great. What you need in a team is know your roles, know what you know, and know your strengths. And between me, Colton, and Rebecca, it's just worked out perfectly. It's been great.
That is dope. So, do you know how to? I mean, at this point, you produce enough shows between the two of you to know how it works. But now you have a club where you can do whatever you want. I mean, you could throw music, you can do karaoke night, you basically have a space where you can do whatever you want, right?
We're doing Go ahead.
Does that take a whole different? Does that take a whole different set of skills that you like? I don't know how to run a club, but now I'm gonna have to figure shit out because we have
100%.
A million%. We just learned what the word freon means. and to be honest, we don't know what
freon means.
We know that it goes in copper piping for refrigerators.
Yep, and
that's what you put in your car so your AC works. That's all I know.
We don't know that.
I don't know that. Is it a liquid?
Yeah, it's so that your AC actually gets cold. I think that's what, because I've had that problem in my old car before, and I'm
but
like,
how does it work? It's just a liquid?
It's just
I guess. I think
that's the thing is, like, we just keep on
look, man, we're just talking shit here. I don't know.
Yeah.
I remember having that problem. My AC was not working, and the guy's like, "Hey, man, you need more Freon." I'm like, "The fuck is Freon?" If I go to if I go to AutoZone right now and I say, "Do you have Freon?" They look at me crazy. It's your fault because I didn't know. Like, yeah, it makes your AC cold.
Our HVAC guy, God, we know all these words now that I don't know before. HVAC is like compressor. Doesn't matter. Our HVAC guy came in and he was like, "Yeah, something Freon." I go, "Freon? No, free Tibet." And he just looked at me like, "You dumb motherfucker." And so that's basically we knew nothing about running a club, but it's 1,000 different small decisions that you just go to an expert to solve, or you just like figure it out. So we don't know, like, we haven't even started producing shows. So all of our knowledge base isn't coming into play at all.
Not yet.
What we know is that we don't know. And so we never get stuck thinking we know better. We just consistently go, "I don't know shit about that. Let's find somebody who does."
Right.
So we just have contractors coming in all day.
That's pretty much my entire day is contractors, welders, electricians, and plumbers telling me, "Well, if you use an H bracket here, you're gonna need this." And I'm just like, I don't know what you're saying. Just fucking do it.
Yeah.
Look, every day you learn something new.
We're doing it the same way I order a restaurant, where I'm like, "Whatever you like it, I probably like it that way."
Right. Do that.
Yeah.
It's like if I went to I've never been to a Thai restaurant. If I went to a Thai restaurant, I would just point or be like, "Just give me what you eat."
Yeah. What do you eat? And I would do that. Yeah. Some of the things that we do know, like, we're doing a bunch of like crazy art installations and like neon lights and like, and it's the type of thing where that is coming into play, because like if you travel the country at all doing comedy, like, you've been in so many bad rooms that you have the opportunity to change things, like change the seats, change the lighting, change the like way that the sound plays off, or like how do you enter, like all of those tiny little things add up. And we don't know anything about chairs, just like I've sat in them before. And like, I hate some chairs are good, but it's like having the opportunity to like sit in a chair and make that your experience.
Did Rebecca give you directions on, like, there's the look and feel to the Creek and the Cave back in New York, and Are you trying to recreate that, or trying to give it like an
No,
Austin
no, no,
twist
no, no,
kind
no,
of deal,
no.
or whatever you want?
No, the basement
Different.
is not going to be. It does not. We're not going to bring the piss smell from the basement. We're going to leave that one in New York.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah. So, but we brought the marquee down. So we're doing a lot of like homages to New York. Like we're gonna have New York style hot dogs. We're gonna have the New York marquee, but like outside is gonna feel like Avatar Acid Trip. And like we're bringing back the pinballs. In fact, the pinball machines are gonna like inform the front room, and it's gonna be this like neon lighted thing, and then the inside is gonna be the cave. So a lot of it's going to be, respectful of the past, but it's also like very new, super Austin. Our whole goal in creating this space is like making something cool for South by Southwest. So like we're gonna build like stadium seating so that we can do some like cool shows, and we're gonna do some.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're thinking is like we want what we want to do is be supportive in the community too. That's going to be a big part of it. So we want to do like some youth outreach. We want to do some like child friendly shows on like brunches and stuff. But then we're also
Drag brunch every Sunday.
Drag brunch every
all
Sunday.
over
Oh my god, we're gonna bring in pools for gay pride, and it's gonna make like a crazy like.
You have Marty. You have an ally next to you. You have no idea what he's gonna be bringing. I know it's gonna be dope though.
Oh my god,
it's gonna be crazy. That's what's great about our roles is because like Colton and Rebecca are kind of like they focus on the visions and like how it's supposed to look, and then I focus on opening up on time. that's my main focus because I'm also colorblind, so like I can't really help with a lot of stuff.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Swatches are a thing.
What was it about comedy in the first place? I mean, you're saying you were started in Madison, Wisconsin. Yeah. Colton, you've been all over the world, from what I understand. En France.
Yeah.
In Germany, en France. I speak French too, so I got to. I grew up there, so when I found out that you were in France and you were modeling and everything, and then Germany, I forgot all my German, by the way. I took 4 years of it. That shit is gone.
Yeah.
But like, what was the comedy light bulb, I would say, for you guys early on?
I don't think it's anything but a compulsion. I don't think when people are like, oh, wow, you work so hard. You do this every night. I'm like, if I don't do this every night, I get anxious. Like I turn into like a not fun person. I turn into that person who's just like constantly like berating people with jokes. And you're just like, please stop. Like, you're so annoying. Like plumbers and bartenders. I'm coming for you. You joke too much. You joke too much. Admit it.
You're that guy.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, it was like I had to, but it's kind of like, what medium do you choose? So, like, I started off, I did one open mic, and I realized my shit was so fucking weird, and I had no idea how to translate that into stand-up. So, I did UCB, sketch writing, and improv. I did the Groundlings, I did Pack Theater for 3 years before I ever did stand-up. And then I blew out my knee playing rugby, and I couldn't move around and be silly. So I decided to stand around and be
no cracking jokes on
silly.
The field?
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you, Marty? What was the spark?
Sure. So I just really didn't really have any direction in my life. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I went to college for 6 years and failed out twice. I didn't know. I kept switching my major. I didn't know if I wanted to go engineering. I thought business maybe, because like I knew I was good at talking to people, so I know I'd be pretty good at sales.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't want to do that. I also didn't want to sit in a cubicle. I hate cubicles. I hate looking at computers. So my background was really in finance. So I did like a little bit of accounting, and then I helped start the company eatstreet.com. It's just like Grubhub. And so I was their CFO. And so I like in college, I did a lot of entrepreneurship. So I started like 6 companies. So that was kind of my background, which just helped a lot with this venture we're on. But then, I don't know, I was just in college. I kind of got pushed out of that company by my friends, which sucks. But I was just I didn't know, I had no direction. And then I was always also the guy who like, my favorite thing in the world was after you go out for like a night of drinking, maybe you have a one night stand or whatever. My favorite thing in the world was telling my buddies about that after. We'd all sit in I lived with like 9 dudes at the University of Wisconsin. We'd all sit in a big circle And then we just, smoke weed and talk about our nights. And I would always kind of just like hold court and tell stories. And so my friend, Ben Cooper, actually, he was the one who finally just convinced me to do it. There was an open mic in Madison, Wisconsin, at Comedy on State. There's one club in Madison, it's Comedy on State. It's one of the best clubs in the nation. There was an open mic and he just convinced me to do it once. I went and I did, surprisingly, I did really well my first time. And then I just got goosebumps and I couldn't shake it. I was like, this is what I have to do. And then I kind of, from there was only, like I said, one club in Madison, which is an amazing club. When I started, there was maybe only 2 open mics a week and then maybe 1 monthly show. So that's where my production comes in. So I was like, oh, well, we need more stage time. If you want to get good at comedy, you need to just get on stage as much as possible. So then I started another open mic, started a couple shows, and then those started snowballing. And then when I left Madison, I opened up, I kind of turned this room. I don't want to call it a comedy club. It was more just like a residency, but we were running shows like every night of the week. So I kind of turned this into like a little tiny indie scene comedy club. And so that's why the whole producing kind of came to. And then 2 years ago, I moved down to Austin, Texas, and Joe Rogan followed me. That's the story.
Oh, you called him up and you're like, yo, man, you need to come down here. This is where it's at.
He called me up and he's like, it seems like it's booming down there. And I was like, yeah, you got to come down here, Joe. And then he said, all right, but you can only if you give me back my helicopter. And I was like, okay, Joe Rogan.
Okay, Joe. I call him Joe. That's what I call him. Sometimes I call him Joey, but I was in a float tank and some stranger got in. And I'm like, dude, I'm floating here. And
he's like, you ever had DMT?
Yeah. And he invited me back to his house for a casual talk about I'll stop lying. What's going on?
Do you have a crush? Do you have a crush on Joe Rogan? Let's just admit.
No,
no,
good.
Not your type.
No, I'm good. I mean, unless he did he say something?
I don't know. I can call him and find out. I don't know. Do you know who Colton is? You're gonna know him.
Yeah,
Trust me, you will. You will.
Gonna know it.
Well, he's been talking about the Creek and a Cave on his podcast, like the last 4 of them or something like that.
There you go. That's. I mean, look, you get the Rogan bump, and you're good to go. I mean, of course, I think this is a recurring theme with everybody moving here and all that, which is great. And I think I started a couple of years ago, but all in all, it's only been maybe 9 months to a year, maybe something like that. And when I've had Kate on the show, I've had Rob from the Roma Room on the show, and it always struck me when people start talking about how cliquish the scene gets and how people just talk shit. I'm like, who are these people? Because everybody that I've met are like, yo, we're all in this together. We're all hustling. We're all it's a grind. Everybody knows the grind. You got to get on stage. I get that. You put out the sign up sheet and everybody just huddles up and trying to get on, or you have to introduce yourself to the host, and first time you go, you're gonna go last. We get all that, but the idea that now that there's actual space and real and momentum, that there's people who are still like, nah, fuck that. I don't want to work with you. I don't want to be. I really don't get, especially in Austin. I've been here 23 years, and if something that's proper to Austin is that if you're hustling, you're bound to meet the right people and you're going to be collaborating somehow, especially if you're in entertainment, you're in music, you're in art or whatever. It's this organic, hey, how can I help you? Hey, I want to help you. And to see people from out of town coming here and having that same mentality, and there's some motherfuckers here that go, no, we don't do that. Fuck that. I'm like, I don't know who these people are. You don't have to name names.
No, that's a bait. That's a bait. Don't say.
I'm not gonna say it. I'm not saying anybody. Nope.
Trap. No,
nope.
that's a trap.
No.
Look, I get it. I'm just saying that it's weird to still hear people
right.
And you know what? That's like most scenes. It's just, comedy is kind of cliquey because it's like a lot of people get into comedy because we're all socially awkward. We're a bunch of weirdos, and then you find your group of friends, and then you don't want to let go of that. You're like, you know what? I found my group of friends. I have my shows that I do, and you don't want to let go of that. And so I understand where it comes from. I get it, and it's very territorial. But at the same time, like I said, since it's kind of Austin has had such a great comedy scene before COVID. That's really what brought me down here. And so, but it's changing a lot right now because Cap City's coming back, but then there's going to be probably 4 or 5 comedy clubs by this time next year. And a lot of the shows, there's not many of the shows that were happening pre-COVID. And so, like I said, with it being, of the 65 comedians at my open mic, only 5 were here pre-COVID. And so like I said, I've known that. I know that about comedy scenes. They're very cliquey and they're very unwelcoming sometimes. And
it's pretty understandable. I mean,
right.
A lot of people think they know that their version of comedy is comedy. And so they think that they know comedy. So when they see something different, their brain usually goes like, oh, you're a hack. Or like, oh, no, I hate him. Like, but it's like, I'm just doing something different. Like I've never done anything bad,
right.
Ever. I would say.
Right. Well,
I'm applying for Satan. I'm applying for Satan.
You're gonna be canonized. Canonized.
There's no secret formula. The only formula is get on fucking stage. That is it.
That's really what it is. It comes down to rap.
You can read as many books as you want, take as many classes as you want, and write as much as you want, but until you get on that stage and trying to make people laugh, like you don't. Anyway, I'm just ranting.
Right.
Here's what I mean. Tools that you can just like read a comic. It's like, oh, you're trying to do this. Oh, you're trying to do that. I see where you're going with this. Right. But I mean, it ultimately, like, finding your voice, no one else can do that except for you. So like, why would I hate anybody for trying to find their voice? Like, it's crazy.
Right. Well, and I mean, everyone's bad at comedy, especially the first year you're doing it. It's like, I mean, everyone's bad. That's how it works. You're not going to get good for a long time. And so, I never, it's not about being like unwelcoming or territorial. It's just like, you know what? They're bad. You were bad. Like, I was bad when I first started. Everyone's bad when they first started. It's few and far between that you find somebody who's really good when they first get started.
I can't name one person. Ooh. And then as I said that, Aziz Ansari apparently was like instantly good.
Really?
But he'd been doing sketch and writing forever.
Yeah.
So he had like writing pieces.
Someone's like Bo Burnham. He was great because he got big off YouTube in like 18 or something like that.
Oh, Bo Burnham. Yeah.
Right.
But he's still like theatrical. He doesn't. I don't really consider that stand-up, even though I just said the thing that I said that I wouldn't say. But he's more. Like
you hear that, Bo Burnham?
Yeah, but if you ever listen to this, Bo,
you make plays. You don't do stand-up. It's good plays. I like it. It's weird and it's fun, but it's not. It's not traditional stand-up.
Right.
Well, I mean, even I personally, I'm not a huge fan of Aziz personally, because it's like he tells jokes and he just screams the punchline every time, and I'm like, I don't know. If it, the thing is, I've consumed so much comedy in 30 years, French comedy growing up in France, and American comedy now that I'm here, that I've kind of become a snob a little bit. Where like when I listen, when I watch comedy, whether in person or on TV, it's like I pay attention to like the techniques, I would say. Where's the tag? Where's the punchline? Oh, there was a pause here. Oh, there was some gesture over here. Oh, right. He did a backflip or singing, whatever it is. But I'm like, I get so caught up in the technique that sometimes the joke would just go over my head. I'm like, okay, all you're doing is screaming into the mic. Or you tell the story and then you act it out. I'm like, I already know what you're gonna do. So
right.
But the process of it all, I think, is what's really interesting. It's I think of it like a puzzle.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's tough not to get a little bit jaded by watching so much comedy. I mean, like I still love watching comedy. I like watching I have to watch the open mics to kind of see who I want to book on some stuff. But I don't. Other than some of my favorite comics, I don't really watch a lot of comedy like in my free time anymore, like, like comedy specials or anything, because it's my whole life now. I spend 24/7 thinking about it, doing it. And so if I've kind of gotten away. It's just, and I've seen a lot of people do that. Once you get 5 years into comedy, it's just like, I don't want to watch an open mic. It's tough.
I don't watch any open mic, but I will listen if the crowd interrupts me thinking or doing something by laughing. I'll go like, oh, they like you. What's going on with you? But
right.
Like, I won't watch a fucking open mic.
No, it's tough.
Do you even do them anymore?
I do them.
Okay.
It's usually I say that I won't, and then I'll start drinking, and then I'm like, all right,
all right, give me the mic.
Right. Yeah. Well, so, open mics in general are always just like the worst. It's just, you have to do them, and they're great for what they are, and they're great for meeting people. But like in terms of comedy, it's just like, it's like, because like mine is 4 hours worth of people doing 3-4 minute sets or whatever, and it's just, it gets long. It's exhausting. I can't believe that non-comics come to open mics. Every time I'm just like, You're gonna sit here and watch
Non-comics?
this? Yeah, like non-comics. Yeah.
It's I think that the people who come to open mics, like just as like audience, they're just either either the comedy fans, they just stumble into it and they watch a couple of guys and they go, okay, this is horrible, and they walk out. Like I went to a mic at I think it was a Shenanigans, and there was only like four of us on the list, and then ran to this guy in the bathroom, and then he's like, hey, are you a comic? I'm like, oh, I guess trying to be. I'm about to go up or whatever. And he goes, well, man, I was here last week and it was horrendous, man. These guys are not polished at all. I'm like, you don't understand how this shit works, do you?
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
Is.
It's the whole point. A hobo can stumble into here and then get on the microphone and talk. You could do it.
Yep.
You could do it.
So
Exactly. If you want to see some like legit shit, go to a showcase. But this is an open mic. People work out.
I feel like the audience members that go to open mics are the people that think that it's brave to do it.
Yeah.
That they're like, oh my gosh,
I could
all
never.
These local people just doing it.
Right.
I just get so much. I wouldn't know what to say. It's like, well, these people say anything.
Right. I mean, and comedians, it's in my mind, it's like infectious to be around comedy and comedians. And so like, I know some non-comics that do come to open mics and stuff, but it's just like, comedians are just the best people in the world. Like we're all weirdos. We don't take life seriously. We can laugh at everything. Like we all party pretty hard. Like we're the best to hang out with. That's why I love comedy for itself, but I always knew that I knew that I was lucky. Once I started hanging out with comedians, I was just like, oh, these are the people that I want to be around. It's hard for me to hang out with non-comedians now, to be honest.
You know what?
Like
when
that
you realize
teacher
your friends are boring.
What?
When you realize your friends are boring and your coworkers are boring.
Yeah, Nick Welker. No, sorry, Nick. Sorry.
But it's true because you're like,
Carl Cove, you son of a bitch. You put that's
boring motherfucker.
It's not that you're boring. It doesn't matter. Hey, I like
Carl.
That. Carl Cove. Fuck you. I'm not kidding at all. These are Nate Bargatze had a good joke that was something like, she's like, you always laugh at your friends, like you always laugh at your friends, but you don't laugh at me ever. He's like, yeah, well, I hang out with professional fucking comedians. Like, what are you talking about?
Right? Like the best people at it too. Well, that's what's been so cool about like having Rebecca down here and talking to her so much. Because I mean, she's like just great friends with some of the best comedians in the world. Like she produced Colin Quinn's special. I mean, one of her best friends in the world is Big J Okerson, Ari Shafir. Yeah. Some of the best at the crafts. It's amazing.
You'll say somebody famous, just like, oh, I saw their special, and she'll just like look like lovingly, like, oh, I love them.
Oh, okay.
It's like, oh my God, they're such a sweetheart. I have a really fun story about that. Let me tell you it right now.
She is the best. We are so lucky. I would have never. I don't think either of us would have ever even considered doing a club by ourselves or with anybody else, but like it just worked out so well that we see eye to eye with her, and she's just amazing, and we love her personality, and she's a ball busty New Yorker, and I love it.
I love her so much. I cannot stop talking about her because I love her so much.
She's the best.
I mean,
I can't wait.
I think there's something about like New York comedy is my favorite kind of comedy. If you were to like, LA versus New York, or Chicago right in the middle, but the ball.
I'm a big Little Rock, Arkansas guy. Go ahead.
Yeah.
As I said, I'm a big Little Rock, Arkansas guy. That's my favorite kind of comedy.
Mine is Guantanamo Bay. I'm particular.
The best. Guantanamo Bay comedy.
Yeah.
Dude, they're great.
Every Sunday night.
I like the urban scene.
But like, there's something to say about it because there's a culture in New York where you just bust balls all day. And you're hanging out with folks. I mean, I was a huge fan of Tough Crowd.
Oh yeah,
Comedy Central. I just watched if you haven't watched the Patrice O'Neal documentary, it's fucking dope. He's my top comedian. But like, how you can get to hang around people and just bust balls all day, and I'm like, dude, who do I know I can do that with?
Right. I mean, it's because life in New York is fucking hard. Just like asking people like how they are, they're like, well, it took me an hour to get here. Like, it takes people 20 minutes, and they're like, the traffic's so hard
That's
here.
true.
Shut the fuck up. And like, I mean, that just makes, like, you just care less. Like, people will say something really offensive to you, and instead of being like, this matters, you're like, somebody shit on my driveway this morning. You know, like, there's a person, you know.
A homeless guy jerked off on a subway next to me.
Right.
Somebody jumped in front of the subway train. Now we gotta get his body out, and I'm late for work. This motherfucker, I had to do it today.
Right?
Yeah.
Seriously.
So, like, you just like grow thick skin, you know, like stop complaining so much.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the right tone to set.
No, it is.
But-
It is.
but-
No, it is. Stop complaining so much. Well, I'm complaining about No, but it's true. I think that you grow this thick skin when you're in these big cities, and I'm thinking like even I mean, you lived in Paris for a little bit. Did you see a little bit of that too? Because Paris motherfuckers are harsh as fuck too, and rude.
Yeah.
And I mean, look,
I was with my
like-
girlfriend, and she's been modeling in Paris for like 3 years, and some dudes just came up and like grabbed her by the pussy, literally grabbed her by the pussy. And she was like, get the fuck off me. And we just kept walking. I was like, are we supposed to call the cops? She was like, nah, she's a thing. And I was like, what?
yeah, it's French. That's what we do.
Yeah.
Gives
She
a
was
shit.
like, they kind of just do that sometimes. Anyways, what do you want?
What?
Noodles? I was like,
Dude,
I'm still hungry, yes, but like, shouldn't we call the cops? She's like, nah.
I got groped by a homeless lady today. She came,
What?
I was outside with a welder, and this lady came up, and she's like, you have to water my plants. And I was like, what plants? And she was apparently schizophrenic, but she was like, you gotta water my plants. And she gave me all like, she put these 2 things in my hands, which turned out to be ramen noodle packets. She put them in my hands. She's like, here, take these. And I was like, I don't want them. She's like, take them. She just hands them to me. And when I have them in my hand, she just grabs me by the dick. Just, whew. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. And then she just like, thank you, and walked away.
Wow.
Thank you.
For the
Thank
record, you did not throw away those ramen packets. They are sitting on the fucking counter.
I
Do
don't
not
know.
eat them. Do not
I
throw
didn't know
the
what to do with
trash.
them.
The trash can.
Nah, I'm gonna eat them.
Nah,
No.
have some mushrooms and then eat them and have a
Yeah.
story.
If I eat mushrooms again, I'm opening up another club.
We're expanding before we even open.
Wait, so now like you're deep into this opening this club and producing and everything. How much time you have to actually go and perform since you're
We're doing it every
Producing
night.
Every night.
every night you still get to
We're
go?
so fucking tired.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's gonna be
7:30 to like let in the contractors. We are here all day, just like taking meetings, and then we start drinking around 5, which is right now.
Yeah.
And I have a show at WTF in about an hour and a half.
Yeah, and I have a show at Lucky Duck with Jason Rouse headlining, and at 8 p.m. tonight. So yeah, every single night we still perform.
God. See, okay, let me ask y'all this because I've been trying to. I had SP Rividenera on last week from New York. She was in Austin. She moved back, and I was like, when you're that deep into comedy, it's like there's no room for anything else.
Yeah.
Because I would assume that you had passions before comedy came around. Whether it's
You'd be surprised.
Yeah, I was gonna say no.
well, now is that just it? Like, what would be a distraction you think? Like, if you're not doing this, or if you want to just chill out besides sleeping or smoking or
Well,
fucking.
I almost took a job doing
Oh.
data science. Yeah. I was supposed to start this week, but luckily, and this is going to sound weird, I failed the drug test.
How's that weird? It's expected.
But it's not. It's because they didn't find any drugs. They just kept being like, stop drinking so much water. And I was like, I didn't drink any water today. But usually, and I was like, it's not water, it's Bud Light, you fucking idiot. Like, don't be stupid, idiot. And so then I said, I was like, can I just shit in the cup? And she was mad at me that I was willing to be flexible about my drug test because I knew that she wasn't going to find anything. And then the company were just like, yeah, you can't work here. I was like, why? Because I just drink too much water? That's bullshit.
Yeah. If you drink enough Bud Light, you start peeing camouflage. It's crazy.
Yeah. You ever need to pass the
I
drug
believe
test?
it.
I guess I didn't pass, so never mind.
Wait, so would you have taken a job if it came down to it? If you had passed?
Yeah,
This is on a podcast.
this is on a podcast, so yeah.
Okay.
And I would have done a wonderful job, and I would have dedicated all of the time that I agreed to. So you have to
Yep.
Release that because that's what I said.
Oh, this is I'm gonna cut just this clip.
Thank you. Can you send it to them because it's true?
No, look, I totally believe it, but like it's like we said, it is a grind. You got to get up there. You got to, I mean, in your shoes, produce, get on stage, produce, get on stage. But what else would you do? Like what other things are you into? If I said, okay, Marty, we get it. You're in comedy, you're doing this, Colton, you too. But what else about you? I would say.
I train dogs.
There you go.
You fucking son of a bitch.
There you go. There's an answer. I know, Colton. I know you lived like 20 different lives already. So okay, add one. Train dogs for a living, or for the fuck of it. Are you serious?
I mean, I watch my mom's dog, and he's a bit of a dick, so I have to train him. But that's the extent of that.
That's it, Marty. What else would you? What else you enjoy doing besides comedy?
There isn't much. I mean, I like for like during lockdown or whatever. Like when I was unemployed, and I mean, nothing.
Call of Duty. Can I change my answer?
Yeah, there you go. You
I would
that makes sense. If you told me you picked up knitting or you started chess or you started doing cartoons or whatever.
When I was 16 years old, I used to crochet hats and sell them.
I also know how to knit.
You do?
I believe you. That is probably the truest thing I've said all day.
Yeah, I do know how to knit. My mom taught me, and I'm pretty good at it. I don't really. There isn't much else, honestly. I mean, like, I love, like everybody. It's gonna sound like a basic girl, but like, I love watching Netflix. I don't know. I like drinking. I need to socialize. That's what really hurt the most about lockdown. Is if I don't socialize, I start going crazy and talking to myself, and it gets crazy. Like my roommates told me a couple times, they're like, "Yeah, we heard you talking to yourself the other day," and I'm like, "I'm so bored." Because I mean, like I said, I didn't like finance, which I was in before this. I love comedy. I'm a big drinker. I'm from Wisconsin. I really enjoy a good beer. I like sports. I mean, I'm a big Packer fan, Bucks fan, Brewers fan. I don't know. I mean, there's not much. It's pretty much just comedy. I mean, it's like on Kill Tony when they ask you like, "What else about you?" and you're just like,
yeah, that's actually. No, I'm not going to admit it.
I have another clip for you. Go for it.
Well, then I'll say what I was going to say anyways.
Go ahead, say it.
I'm really into the Ottoman Empire and pirates and ancient Mesopotamia. And these are all true things. And I spend a lot of my time reading history books.
There you go.
Yeah. So it's not some hobby. Fun answer. Yeah.
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I mean, I never think
that's exactly why
I don't think that knitting is fun.
Yeah. Why we don't talk about it, because it really doesn't matter.
Right.
No, but
I was gonna say I forgot to mention I also do love cooking. I'm Italian, and I worked in kitchens before. I worked in restaurants and bars for years as like my day job, and so that's what I did over quarantine. Was I perfected my my fried chicken recipe. It's amazing. I make a delicious linguine alla bolognese. It's delicious.
Ba la bolognese.
I'm Italian. Parlo italiano. Tu sai mai fare?
Me solo.
Vaffanculo. Yeah, I know that one.
Yep. Actually, I've been to Paris twice. I lived in Italy for like 6 months, and so yeah, I traveled up there. I gotta tell you, I like Italy way better than France, but it was okay. It was fun.
We're gonna have to talk. Why is that?
Because he's poor.
Yeah, I'm what the Spanish call
basura. What did the French people do to you?
They were just mean to me because I speak Italian, English, and Spanish, and so like I spoke Italian, and I just kept not saying we. Like when I was in taxis and shit, I just kept saying si, and they were so rude to me, and I was like, I'm sorry. Like I could even understand a decent amount of French, but like they were so mean to me, and I was just like, I don't know. Like the Italians are so nice. You walk up to them and it's like, American, come on over here, let's get drunk. What do you want? And the French people were like, oh, fucking American, get the fuck out of here.
You know what? When I go back, I have a much better time, and people help me way more when I speak English than when I speak French.
Yeah.
Which is weird. So like, one time I went, I was looking for a movie theater, And I get out the subway. I didn't have like internet on my phone or whatever. I was there on, I went back on vacation. But I get out the subway and I'm looking for a movie theater and I ask in French. I walk around asking people in French, où est le cinéma? Il est où? And they all looked at me like, motherfucker, you're supposed to know. You look like you live here. You're supposed to know what a movie theater is. Nobody would answer me. And so I'm walking and I run into one of those like visitor kind of office thing for tourists. And I go in there and I put on my best American accent. And I'm like, excuse me, sir, I am looking for the movie theater. And he looked at me and goes, oh, yes, the movie theater. All you have to do, you go outside, you go down the stairs, take a left, and you go all the way, you see it. And on my way out, it was in the mall, underground mall. And on my way out, the mall closed on me. I was stuck in the mall.
Oh.
And there was a door. I started walking around in the mall. I was stuck. There's a door. I open the door, I end up in this alley, and there's a truck, and I knock on the truck, and I say in English, hey, I'm lost. I'm looking for the exit. I don't know what the hell's happening. They shut the door on me, and the guy just yelled at me in French.
Really?
He yelled at me in French, and I know exactly what he was like. You motherfucker! Like he really yelled at me, and I knew that if I spoken French once, they would have booked my ass.
Really?
Yes, because the French are racist motherfuckers.
They are.
I mean, everywhere I went, when I went to clubs, I would walk around, I would order my drinks in English because they all thought, oh, I'm African American, so I gotta know, I don't know, I know Chris Rock or I know 50 Cent, or seriously, I told them like, yeah, I know DJ Premier is a boy of mine or whatever, and everywhere I went, they treated me well. And if I spoke in French once, they would have treated me like shit.
Yeah. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the French are assholes. I do agree with you on that.
Okay, there we go.
My favorite thing was to be like, because I was just like dressed very Parisian at the time, because I was modeling. So my favorite thing was like when American tourists would come up in their fucking big old Texan star shit, or their fucking like,
they don't like that
Packers jacket, and I'm just like, what the fuck are you doing? And they were like, pardon moi. Ooh, a le metro. Every time I was always just like, je ne sais, metro, la metro. I'm like, like every time. I just love giving the bad directions. It made me feel fun. So I think being an asshole is fun. Maybe you guys try.
It is.
Well, I mean, that's why I understand it, because like Americans are sometimes the worst, and so I get it why they'd be angry, especially like tourist Americans walking around in Crocs and like Notre Dame or whatever. It's like, what are you doing?
No, they're like, speak English, motherfucker. I'm in your country, but you speak English to me.
Yeah.
If you try, they'll give you props for trying, like at a restaurant or whatever. But otherwise, if you being the obnoxious, like red, white, and blue American with your hat on and your Hawaiian shirt, it's not good.
It's described Dean Stanfield.
Dean Stanfield, change yourself, okay?
Come on, Dean, get your shit together.
At least in Paris. Yeah, my mom got. I don't want to tell that story, but she got engaged.
Okay, stop saying that. Just tell the story. I'm not going to say that.
My mom got engaged in Paris. She went with her Texan Carl Kolb, and he is a 5'4" man who wears cowboy boots. Who's like, bam, bam. But they got off the train to come into Paris at Charles de Gaulle, and they set their bag down and like their backpack and like all their things like a fucking idiot tourist. And some guy just like comes and sprays makeup in my mom's face. And then some other guy was like, I have a towel for you. And Carl was like, no, you don't put it to wipe it off. I'll wipe it off for her. And then they stole his fucking backpack that had a bad tourist and a fucking idiot. His iPad, $5,000 in cash, his phone, his camera, and his grandma's wedding ring.
Oh, Carl.
God damn.
Carl.
That's
and
a hot
also,
Carl.
some people go like, oh, I don't know about travel. He put glass in my mom's bed when they broke up, so he's a bit of a dick, but a lawyer, so he got away with it. Pretty cool. Pretty privileged.
Pretty cool.
So you tell Italians do none of this.
You said Italians do none of this?
Oh no. We're not emotional or anything like that.
Yeah.
We would never get emotional.
Yeah,
or anything.
Italians don't steal shit.
No, they don't
you
do
kidding
any
me?
of that. No, they don't call you asshole. If you call you asshole, it's a term of endearment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, we don't do organized crime at all.
No. It's just, Italians being Italians. That's what they do. That's what they do.
I have a big Italian family. I have like 43 cousins now or something like that. Mostly on my mom's side, that's the Italian side.
Uh-huh.
And they are it's crazy. I mean, with like our holidays and stuff, my mom and her sisters just like stay in the kitchen the entire time making food, and it's just like blah, 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 talking the whole time. I love my Italian heritage. I am very, very. I'm not like overly proud of it, but I'm proud of it. I love it.
I like if you're from that family that talks shit all the time family, to where, especially if you have a lot of siblings and you're trying to stand out a little bit, you want to be the the wise, if the youngest that needs attention is like, oh, look at me, I'm gonna crack jokes all the time. And then there's a lot of like background stories of comedians. That's where they came from. Like, look, I needed attention when I was a kid. I wasn't getting it. So I was the asshole in the family because I wanted that attention.
Right. Well, you're talking to two of them right now. We have
really?
Well, we have very kind of similar backgrounds, like family wise. Like I have an older sister and two younger brothers. I was the oldest boy, and it was I was kind of vying for attention, making jokes. I think that's the way I got funny, was watching my mom and her sisters like just people watch. That's what I do. They'd sit at the mall. They were all from Michigan. They'd sit at the mall in Michigan for like hours, and then we just make up stories about the people walking by.
Oh,
and that's how I got funny, I think.
That is the best. You too, Colton?
I'm the third oldest brother, but no, not third oldest brother. Two older girls, and then me, and then my youngest brother. And I just remember like my dad would make up the nicknames that they fucking called me. They're like, "Hey kids, we should all call Colton GT because he doesn't brush his teeth, so we're gonna call him Green Tea." I'm like, why don't you fucking just like stop shaming me, bro, and like teach me some fucking skills? And then one time I was just like rushing. I put on my sister's pants, and they were just turned out to be bell bottoms. So he was like, "Oh, you're a bell bottom boy, British bell bottom boy," and just like stuff like that.
Little did he know.
Little did he
He's
know.
gonna come out gay.
Little British bottom gay boy was way more accurate. He should have called me faggot just once, and he would have been right.
If you had my dad, you would have been called it.
Yeah, but I remember that moment when I was like, "Oh, funny's gonna get me attention," because my sister always used to get all the fucking laughs. I never got any laughs. Like I felt like they all fucking kind of hated me. I had big teeth and I did look weird. But that was
you've come a long way.
Like shit. And thank you, grew into my teeth. And I just remember doing some like accent, and I'm sure that it wouldn't fucking age well. The 90s weren't, teaching kids how to be delicate. But I think it was probably like a poo or something, like not from The Simpsons, a poo. And I just remember like my whole family was like just laughing in the van. We're in a fucking minivan, and my sister like leant forward to be like, "I used to be the funny one," and I just remember elbowing her so hard, and I flipped her going, "Well, now I am." What do you think about? It was just so competitive for like any emotion. Yeah. I remember my like hugging my dog. Like for a time, I didn't never get any hugs from my family at all, ever. And I remember like hugging my dog, and my dad was like, "Stop making out with the dog." I was like, "Isn't this a sign I need love?"
Right. Right?
Yeah.
We could all use some love.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean,
I had a similar situation. He's my dad, but he wasn't around the entire time when I was a kid. So I was always vying for attention, vying for love. And then I was a small kid for a long time, so I got the shit beat out of me. I got bullied a lot when I was growing up. And so that's how I got good at roasting, because I knew I couldn't beat anybody up. I couldn't do anything physically, but I knew I could hurt people with my words. And so I could pick out like the little thing they're insecure about. And that's how I got into roasting, which has led me to my roast battle and down the road of comedy.
Yeah, I had when I was in middle school back in France, like I was I was that kid too. I was just talk shit to everybody, but I would fit in every clique in the middle school. I could just go in. People were like, no, hang out with these people. I'm like, no, I can't go anywhere. But I remember my friends sitting me down. I was like 12 years old, and they went, "Yo, back, you need to come the fuck down with these jokes, because you make people cry." They don't tell you to their face, but you make people cry. You got to stop. And I'm like, all right, I'll be more chill. And at the time, I could dish it, but I couldn't take it either.
Mm.
And so as we grew up, they're like, oh, we'll get back at you. And now, like, I think the only people that I can get like that with are my boys from France. And then I started hanging out with comics. I remember at Moon Tower years ago, like maybe the second or third year, I ended up at 24 Diner at a table at like after Moon Tower, and at the table you have Ari Shafir, you have who was in town that year, Kurt
Bill
Metzger.
Cosby?
Huh?
Is it Bill Cosby?
No. No, like Kurt Metzger, Dan Soder, and I'm basically that whole crew, and I'm just sitting there like this, and I'm like, holy crap, these guys do not let anything fly. At the moment you just say something stupid, they just everybody just goes at you, and I'm like, yeah, I kind of like that.
Oh yeah.
I want to be. I want
Best.
to.
It makes you not take yourself too seriously. I love it.
And it also like acknowledges your existence. Sometimes like you say something to like non-comics and they just don't know how to handle it, so they don't. And you're just like, I just said something really fucking funny and you're not even gonna react.
Yeah. It's gotten me in trouble before. I used to do this one show. One story that came to my mind was I used to do this show at like every New Year's Eve up in like it was called Spencer, Wisconsin. Small town. It was at a hotel. And like the last time I did it, I because I roast during my show. I do some crowd work where I was roasting people. And then they wanted to like after the show, we were all hanging out at the bar, and then everybody was there, and they wanted me to roast them. And I was like, you don't want this. I'm gonna make fun of you in front of your wife about your tiny penis. And I did, and to the point where I was this close to getting in a fight, but like my girlfriend at the time had to break it up, and it got so bad that they had to shut down the bar because it's like you guys didn't know what you were getting into. Don't ask me to roast you. I'm gonna roast you.
Did you ever, whenever you held the job back then, did you ever get in trouble at work for HR came down because you were like?
Nah, never.
Never?
Man, I'm a totally different person at work. When I used to do when I was like a bartender, when I was a bartender, I didn't even like tell jokes.
Mm-hmm.
I was more just like work for me when I used to work in like restaurant industry and stuff was I'll just go there, put my head down, shut up and do my job. Because then at night I talk every single night nonstop with people.
Yeah.
So like nobody even knew I did comedy at a lot of my jobs.
I think more while I'm at work than say more. So even if I'm like around strangers,
mm-hmm.
I rarely say what I'm thinking, but I'm like taking notes so like I can write about it later, or like just observing, because I mean that's the hardest part about being a comic is just like taking a step back to observe more, to like get more material so that you can write more. So I mean creating those moments where you can write more, where you're like, this is my writing space.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, a lot of people have to have like bartending jobs or like favorite jobs or whatnot. You know, it's easy to distract yourself with getting through that thing, but it's way more beneficial to use that thing and just constantly be writing instead of performing. Because like performing is for me on stage, on camera, like podcasts. I don't want to be the performer all the time because then I'm never the writer and the jokes don't work out.
Right. Yeah, you need time. You can't be on all the time because being on all the time is just exhausting. And so you're like that's why I almost like miss my old jobs because it was a time for me to just turn my brain off and do my job. Like I love one of my favorite things in the world is being an expo at a restaurant because I loved getting the food out. It was like a puzzle for me. Making sure that went down, making sure this is coming out on time, making sure the ticket times aren't long. I really actually like enjoyed that quite a bit. So I can turn my brain off, stop thinking about, how much of a degenerate I am, and then just like do my job for like, 6 hours. And I actually really enjoyed that.
No, it's, I totally agree. It does get exhausting. Like I wish sometimes like, when I'm hanging out at Mike's, and we're just hanging out talking or whatever, and I'm like sometimes I just want to be like, hey, can we talk about something else than talking shit about whoever's on stage or how unfunny somebody is or or
And the
someone does
thing
something,
is-
you got to have the best joke in this circle right here. Because I mean, I think you really get to know somebody. I mean, yeah, somebody's funny or that's fine. But I'm like, okay, what else you got? What else about? That's why I was asking those questions because not everybody is just one dimensional. I think everybody has a story to tell. I mean, you guys are relatively young compared to me. You can't tell.
How old are you?
Huh?
How old are you?
I'll be 39 on Tuesday.
Okay, that's a full decade. You're about a decade older than me.
Yeah. So
you
guys are young. And you've lived like 25 lives more than I have already. So I'm like, what the fuck was I doing when I was?
Don't worry, my liver's about 75. So
no, but I mean, like, when I did an open mic for the first time about 7 years ago, and I did it with John Stringer, and that was his first time on it, and he kept going. I had a job, and I was like,
right.
No,
That's why it's tough for people that like. I mean, comics have a lot in common. I mean, that's why a lot of us are Uber drivers, working restaurants, bartenders, because like if you have a good job, like you don't see a lot of like doctors at open mics. You don't see a lot of lawyers at open mics. You see like, people that aren't making 6 figures a year.
Yeah, there's something to say like about complacency. Like if your job is cush, you're probably not going to work that hard. And stand-up comedy is a thing where you have to do it every fucking day.
You gotta be ready for like, as we were talking, like open mics, they suck to go to. They really do. It sucks to get good at comedy for 5 years of making no money with it and getting good. And then there's so many, even after that, I'm 8 years in and I still do terrible shows every once in a while. Like I've done, and then you have to do that to get stage time. I mean, I've done after proms at a bowling alley for like 17-year-olds. I've done metal festivals. I've done charity events. I've done everything. And that's what you have to do to get good. But like, if you don't, if that is daunting to you at all, then like you don't get into comedy.
Don't do it. Don't fucking do it. I know a guy who's 11 years in, and he's terrible. He's just so fucking bad. He should quit.
That's there's a lot of those.
Yeah, it's just so funny. But like,
name his name.
I would, but I feel like I can't.
No, don't do it.
Are you giving me another segment to cut?
Then he already knows who I'm talking about.
All right.
Yeah.
Whoever you are, you're not alone. Just know that there's a lot of people out there who are just like, this is fun. This is fun.
Totally. Yeah, you should change careers. You should.
Whoever you are.
I'm not the only person that thinks you should quit. You're an asshole. Is this getting too much? I didn't say the name, but
what is it wrong with?
You can be bad, and if you're an asshole, that's the whole thing. Like, you're probably bad because you're such an asshole.
Right. But the thing is, we don't care. I mean, if there's somebody who's like bad and they're 10 years in, think about it is like most open micers are bad. Out of 60 comics, maybe 6 will be good, but you need those bad people because you need people to fill up. You need comedy fans. You need people that will love it. And like, sure, anybody can try it. There's no barrier to entry, but you kind of need those people. Like I always,
and I've been really fucking bad. So like, I get it.
Right. Well, and it's about being good people because there's so many, like we were just saying, like if you're an asshole, then like fuck you. But like, just be a good person, be nice. I mean, I don't know. I've always been nice to everybody that I've met, really. And then the only people that I don't like in comedy are assholes. I don't dislike somebody because they're bad at comedy.
Yeah.
I dislike them because they're a dick.
That's how I feel. But you should.
What is his name? I think actually, I think I know who you're talking. I'm not gonna say. I have a clue, but I'm not going.
Craig Fergola. No.
Fuck you, Craig. No.
We always used to we always would end every single podcast saying, "And fuck you, Craig Fergola." It was a very small number of people, but we did it every single time.
Oh, it was a thing. That's awesome.
Yeah, I loved it. I also loved Craig Fergola.
It's a weird. It's a weird business to jump in, and I have the utmost respect for people who dedicate their lives to it. I mean, there's a reason why a lot of professional comics, for example, don't have kids until they're in their 40s. Think of Bill Burr, Rob Kelly. These guys are in their 50s and they have like a 3-year-old boy. I shot myself in the foot. I got a 3-year-old already, plus a job and everything. But I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna give this everything I can. And whatever, it's like better late than never type of deal. I don't know what will come out of it, but I enjoyed since the first time I went on. I'm like, look, this is I feel like this is where I belong kind of thing. I know this sounds weird coming from me, and I just started, and you guys been in there for a long time. Like, yeah, this motherfucker doesn't know what he's talking about.
No. I think that actually having a kid is one of those bridges to normalcy that I just don't have. Like, I don't relate to a normal person at all. I'm like polyamorous. I'm like, I fuck everybody, and like that's not a thing. That like is immediately dirty. Like I don't know why. But like having a kid, I actually lie about having a kid because I don't know how to relate to so many audiences. So I just like made up that. I was like, actually,
that doesn't
I
work.
do have a kid. It doesn't work. I promise you.
I have a joke. Seriously, I have a joke about my kid being a school shooter.
That's a separate. I didn't say.
No. Hold on. It is the joke. It is.
Whoa.
Wait, what?
You said school shooter, right?
Yeah, shoot a school. Shoot up a school.
Yeah. You don't see how what you and I are doing are different.
Yes, it is. But I'm talking about the response I get when I talk about having a kid with a room full of comics, because they can't relate to any of the shit I'm talking about.
Right. Because it's tough. I mean, that's the same thing with like having a 6-figure job or like having even a girlfriend or a wife. I mean, like I'd say a good amount of comics are single because it's you really have to dedicate your entire life to it. I mean, you can do it without all those things, but like it has to be your dedication. That's why I lucked out, because I was like just bringing my shows back. I was unemployed, so I had nothing to do. I have no girlfriend, wife, kids. I had nothing. And so I was just like, oh, I have all day, every day. Perfect. I can throw myself fully into comedy.
But I mean, there's also like the people that like that you're talking about, like I think yourself, where it's like find your room. Like it like that's what they say about reading the room. Like if you did those jokes of like Cap City or Helium Now, but Cap City, they would have loved that shit. Like that. Those are the people who pay money to go to comedy shows, and that's good because you want money doing this shit. Right. Like, I mean, yeah. So many like weirdos, including myself. I'm just like, is there a glass ceiling? Like, is there some sort of like thing that I can't get above because I can't relate to enough people? And perhaps, I don't know, but I don't think you should stop doing your kid material. I think you should find a room that they like it.
I need some relatability. I'm gonna start having sex without a condom, just so I can pop a kid in, have something to do.
Yeah.
Should have why, and then be like, yeah, this.
I'm kidding. I don't wear condoms for everybody out there.
The latest lie that I'm telling on stage is I'm going to prison. Like, how fucking relatable is that? Like, why am I doing that?
Right. I have to tell so many people that like a lot of comedy is hyperbole and exaggeration. Like a lot of it is a lie. I mean, there's a ton that it's not true. I mean, it comes from truth. Like all of my stories, all my jokes, they come from truth, but there's some exaggeration in there. You know, you gotta have it.
Do you guys walk around with a pen pad, write your jokes as you?
I used to.
What's your regimen?
Sticky notes. So that one idea was one thing, and then I would like put it in my notebook so that entire page was just like dedicated to that idea. Now I just either write on stage and then I listen to it and then I'll put it in my notes on my phone. Yeah, but then that note, Natalie Goldberg said that the idea will never be as big as a piece of paper that you're writing on. So if you are
really
looking to expand your idea, writing in something small, it doesn't actually you're not going to get to where like you're not going to blow it out as much as you want.
See it from every
having
angle.
A notebook where you can just like write. And I always choose really, really shitty notebooks where there's no pressure to write. Like I just lost my notebook in Houston, and everyone's like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "I don't give a fuck about that notebook. Like it's trash." Right. I make it trash so that I write more, so that I don't have to feel the pressure of writing.
Well, and plus, I mean, I think it matters so much more in the beginning of just like getting that routine of writing, and like now, I mean, I text myself jokes or premises, but same thing. Like, I didn't know how to write on stage till I was about 5 years in, and then I like realized like, oh, okay, then I can explore that joke on stage rather than just like by yourself in your head. And so now, I mean, same thing. Like I've lost so many joke books. I only have one left right now, but I think once you gain that confidence in yourself that you're going to be funny, I mean, that makes not all of it, but makes a lot of the nervousness and anxiety of going on stage. It makes it go away. Cause I'm like, you know what? I'll remember my jokes. I've been doing this long enough. I've done 1,000 comedy sets in my life. Like it's gonna come back.
Yeah. And if you don't remember it, it wasn't that funny.
Right.
So if you don't remember, if you write something and you don't remember it, don't try to memorize it because it's not that funny.
Yeah.
That's right. And, you know, and when you first start, it's like you have it in your head. You're like, okay, if I was on stage, this is how I want to say it, and it's totally different. Like you're I mean, that happened to me a few times where I know where I'm going, and my brain just goes, "Fuck it, we're gonna go left," and it totally doesn't work. And like, fuck, now I gotta go back. Or if you get a response, then like I record all my sets, and then afterwards I do a little like self-critique little video, and I'm like, okay, well that didn't work, that was horrible, okay, that was okay, but maybe if I switch things around. I try to work my way through the puzzle and figure out how things need to move based on the response I got.
Well, and it's so different for every comedian. I mean, the writing process, like I'm one of the comics that I don't like writing for other people or with other people. A lot of people do workshops, they get together, they run jokes by each other. I don't know. It's just my writing style is I can't. And so like, and then some people, you know, need to write it down. Some people write nothing down. I mean, it's so different for every comic. It's why it's funny when comics ask me, they're like, so like, how do you write? And I'm just like, I mean, it's going to be so different. You figure out what your process is, because that's really what it comes down to.
There's another thing, Natalie Goldberg, you're getting a lot of play in this podcast. Is that milk?
Are you drinking milk?
Did you just drink
milk?
No, it's not milk. This is Amarula. It's a liqueur from South Africa.
Okay.
Delicious. Throw that in coffee.
But it's made from milk.
Yeah, but it's dope. You drink it on.
I'm sorry. We just randomly thought you drink some cup of milk.
Cup of milk. This is what it is. This is elephant cum. Like it says on the bottle. But it's delicious. It's delicious. Amarula. They don't pay me, but I tried it in South Africa. I'm like, I got to get this back. So anyway.
So we got. Can we do our plugs? I apologize. We got to cut.
Yeah. It's all good. It's all good. All right. So Creek and the Crave. Creek and the Crave. Creek and the Cave. Sorry. ATX opens up. What's the launch?
April 1.
April 1 on April Fool's Day.
Yeah, and if we don't open up on time, joke's on you.
Yep.
That's a t-shirt.
Yep.
Where can people find you individually, and then the venue? Quick plug and the shows you're doing too as well.
On all the things, just type in Creek in the Cave, and then you'll find us. I'm Colton Dowling on all things because that's my name.
So follow Creek. I think it's Creek and Cave on Instagram. Follow that. Check us out. Our website we're putting up, so we're gonna start putting our programming up there, so you're gonna start to see who we're bringing in, what we're gonna do. For me, follow Rough Cut Comedy on Instagram and Facebook. Like I said, I run a ton of the shows in town. Follow Rough Cut Comedy. Follow at Comedian Marty for all my stuff. And then if anybody's listening to this in Austin, every Monday I'm at WTF 7 p.m. Every Tuesday I'm at Baker Street Club 8 p.m. Every Wednesday Lucky Duck 8 p.m. Thursday Poor Choices 8 p.m. Friday WTF 7 p.m. And then Sunday we have a show starting up at the Russian House at 8 p.m. every Sunday. So just follow Comedian Marty or Rough Cut Comedy and see them all.
Well, congratulations to both of you. Hoping the best. I know I'll see you around. As always, make sure you follow the FeedBak everywhere on the socials. Check out the archive. We've had a lot of people on, and we plan on having more. The booking list is really filling up. So if you're a comic in Austin or from wherever listening, make sure you support your local comedy. You know, it's definitely a need these days after the shitty year we had. So again, thank you guys so much for being on.
Of course.
And,
of course.
good
The
luck
thing
to
I
y'all.
was going to say about Natalie Goldberg was shut up and write. She just whatever you're doing, shut up. Whatever excuses you have, just shut up and write.
That's a Natalie Goldberg. Yeah, and thank you for having us. We appreciate it. And you know, you're a big supporter of the comedy scene here in Austin, so thank you.
Thank you. And as we say every single time,
fuck you, Craig Fergola.
Should I name the episode that just for his attention?
Yes, he would love it.
Sure. He would love it. Maybe you should name it. Don't record this.
Too late. It's still on. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.